Hi, friends. This is Dr. Arpita Gupta Dipalma, and you're listening to my podcast, From Pissed Off to Poised. This show is for busy women physicians and professionals just like you who are ready to take control of their emotions while learning how to excel in juggling all the things they are responsible for in life. It's for overextended mamas who are trying to figure out how to work smarter, not harder. It's for multitasking women who are tired of playing the role of the angry and resentful air traffic controller, who simply want to learn how to create a life that is more calm, intentional, and joyful for themselves. My goal is to help you learn how to eliminate the overwhelm and maintain your composure in high-stress situations that you face with the demands in your day-to-day life. Because I get you guys, this was totally me. You are not alone. I invite you to embark on your journey of transformation with me. Enjoy the listen. All right, welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining me for another episode of From Pissed Off to Poised. I am super excited to have you here today, and I am super excited because I have one of my favorite people on earth joining me today to talk to you a little bit about how she transformed her anger real time. This is one of my lovely clients, Dr. Shelley Fiscus. I am super, super excited, like I said already, to have her here with me to share her experiences with you. And I am going to give her the floor to give you a little intro on herself, because she does a ton of amazing things. She is a badass powerhouse, and I don't think I can even give her justice. So Dr. Shelley Fiscus, please tell them all about how amazing you are and why.
Well, thank you. You're one of my favorite humans too. So the respect and the love is mutual for sure. So I'm Shelley Fiscus. I am a boarded pediatrician who left private practice after about 17 years and went to public health at the state level and was in charge of the immunization program for my state as we came into the pandemic. And having been in a southern state, there was a lot of politicization of the pandemic. And at the same time that I was running the immunization program, my husband was also on a local school board. So this was not a great combination during the pandemic. And eventually we both became targets of some political activity. And that eventually resulted in my being relieved of my position and our family actually deciding that we needed to leave the state for our well-being and our safety, and for future employment prospects. We just needed to pick up and leave. And that was after being in that community for about 24 years. So it was a big shift for us. My kids were born and raised there. They went through the public school systems there. My youngest had just been dropped off at college. My oldest was still in college, and it was a big, kind of unbelievable looking back kind of situation.
I would say you have reason to be pissed.
Yes, I had ample reason to be pissed for sure.
Oh my gosh, really? And I remember when I heard your story for the first time, I met you at a women physicians conference in Puerto Rico. It was women in pediatrics, I remember. And we were just chatting on the bus, and you had just had an injury as well. And so you were we were trying to help you get along, get to all the activities and things. And you kind of told me a little bit about what happened. And I just remember if it didn't happen physically, it happened mentally, my jaw dropping and me going, WTF, like, does this shit really happen in the world? And I probably wasn't a good coach in that moment. I wasn't coaching you. I was more of let me be on your side here and talk about how you really have a right, even afterwards when we were a coach, how you have a right to feel all the feelings that you're feeling about this. So thank you for sharing it, because I know that can still be tender sometimes. And I know that it's a huge ordeal that you went through. And to share that openly with people and vulnerably with people means a lot.
I think it was just kind of funny because we just sat down on the bus together, and I didn't know that you were going to be a speaker at this conference, and you didn't know I was going to be a speaker at this conference, and I didn't know that you did this kind of work. And so, yeah, we're just like chit chatting. And then I ended up seeing your name on the schedule and went to one of your workshops. And I was like, well, holy crap, this would be super helpful right about now.
the universe making the things happen that need to happen. I am a firm believer in this for sure. So, can you take us back to when you noticed your anger really becoming an issue? I mean, in terms of for you and how it was impacting you, how you were showing up. Can you talk a little bit about that and then what it looked like before and then maybe as you started to have the awareness around it?
Yeah, I think, there was a grief process for sure, and the stages of grief, you've got denial and you've got, I don't even know what they are anymore, but I,
There's denial, there's anger, there's sadness,
anger.
grief, there's oh my gosh, I can't either. I have to pull the book out of my very dusty medical library downstairs.
Yeah, so I started going through those and I just got stuck at pissed off for sure. And I mean, there were just so many emotions with the whole thing. There was betrayal by the people who I was working with, who I respected, and by my community. There was, just hurt. There was, this was a very complex, kind of unbelievable situation that we found ourselves in. And I never in a million years would have thought that we would sell the forever home that we had just built. We hadn't even been there for very long. And, we had built this retirement home and exactly with the specifications that we wanted as we envisioned aging in this house. And, now I'm putting it on the market because of this crap I'm, going through in this stupid state. And so, yeah, there was a lot. There was bitterness. And I knew from, just being in the middle of this whole thing, I was like, man, I am going to have to like work with a professional of some order to get to the other side of this. I'm going to need a third party to help me kind of walk through some of this. And it was just really all of that, this big, ugly ball of all these different emotions from this. And I don't think I started working with you, Arpita, until, I don't know, close to 2 years after the fact, I think. And, kind of all along the way, knowing that I wasn't going to get to the other side by myself. And so it really was kind of, serendipity that I sat on the bus next to you, because it sort of was like, oh, okay, well, if you're going to put the person almost literally in my lap, I guess maybe I should go with that. And I don't think I could say that I was super angry necessarily in like all my interactions or anything. I mean, I'm sure there were times when I didn't present as my best self for sure, but there was also just so much internal dialogue and, beating myself up and not giving myself grace and second guessing things. And, I've dragged my family through this and, what do people think of me and all this kind of stuff that I think you were really able to point out as problematic.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful because you touched on like it wasn't just anger. There were so many different emotions here. And that's part of what we talk about. That anger is oftentimes our way of kind of coping with some of these other emotions because we don't want to feel them. And, so kind of picking it apart and really realizing all the different pieces and parts to it and all the kind of thoughts that lead to all the different emotions, how we can kind of get to the bottom of what is so painful that we want to allow to be there to be able to process through it. And that in turn also helps us with how we're showing up angry. And so I guess when we started doing this work, and I know I taught you the anger protocol, but it was more than that for you also with regards to like learning how to process emotions and being aware of how you're thinking about things. What was the first change or difference that you noticed that maybe even became the incentive for you to be like, okay, like I might be onto something here?
Oh, it was a transformative moment. So when you had me, and this was in, I don't know, maybe our like second or third session or something, and you had me, sit with my eyes closed and I'm like, oh Lord, she's going to make me do some visioning thing. And, it's a bunch of BS and it's not going to do anything. And you had me describe to you where I felt this emotion. And I said, I feel it right in the middle of my chest. And then you had me describe it, like what color is it? And what does it look like and how big is it? And I was able to do that. I mean, I was actually able to visualize this ball of, I think I said it was amber. And you walked me through this whole crazy visualization thing. And I don't buy into that stuff at all. I'm the person who would like go to one of those hypnosis shows and be the person who just sits there with my arms crossed, like, you can't touch me. But, I went through this whole thing. And then at one point you had me make a bench and sit on the bench. And then you asked me who I wanted on the bench with me. And I said, I wanted my husband there. And there was this whole thing. And then the color of the ball changed. And you had me describe that. And like by the end of it, I was sobbing. I mean, it was just sobbing and just felt this absolutely tremendous release because you walked me through like just throwing it out basically. And, at the end of it, I felt like, okay, well, there's still this little nugget in there. Like it didn't all go away, but I was okay with the little nugget. Like the nugget could stay and the nugget wasn't going to, affect the way that I am living from day to day, like the big ball of ugly amber, whatever was getting in the way. And that was just such an incredibly powerful thing that you did, that, I mean, it surprised me how impactful that was. And really from that moment forward, I was, like I said, it was really transformative. I mean, I was so much better after that one weird exercise that, it's really remarkable. And I feel like, anybody listening has got to be like rolling their eyes like, oh yeah, sure. But it really was, it changed everything.
I'm so thankful that you shared that because it's so very true. And this goes back to, it's not just physicians, but very much so with physicians. We are not in tune to our bodies. We don't know what emotions we're having. We don't know how to label them. We don't know how to feel them. We just know that it feels like we're going to die if we feed into it, if we let it be. And so we just keep shoving it down farther and farther and farther, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so part of this exercise is just starting to become more in tune with our body, to notice where these emotions are sitting, what they might be, how they feel, and then just allow them to be there so that we can process them. And so exactly what you're describing is processing emotion. And it sounds like woo, I get it. I hear you. I was in that same boat. But when we do this, it allows for such a release and such a lightening of this weight that we're carrying because we have never done it. We don't allow ourselves to do it. And so, and like you mentioned, that nugget that's left, that's a sign that it changed, it transformed, processed a lot. And there's still a little bit there because quite frankly, what you were carrying and what you went through was very, very significant. And so I wouldn't even expect it to be completely gone. But now you have awareness around what is there so that as it gets bigger, if it kind of gets heavier, you know how to address it, how to handle it in a more productive manner.
Yeah, and I do check in with it, from time to time. Like I try to just take a moment and kind of put myself back in that position. And I go back in and I kind of look around and there's just like this little nugget sitting there. And I'm like, I can't muster that kind of feeling anymore. And it was right around that time too, where I was really able to admit to myself that I cannot muster anger and bitterness about what happened to me. Like I can reflect on it. I can be frustrated about it when I'm telling the story to somebody, but it doesn't draw me back down into that. And people will apologize all the time. Like, oh, I'm so sorry to be, kind of dragging yourself or dragging you back through this. And I'm like, no, really, it is fine. It's something that happened. It caused a monumental change in the life of my family. And I have processed all of that. And fortunately, 3.5 years later, I feel like I'm in a much better place than I was when I was there. I just wish they would tell you, like, you're going to go through this really terrible thing, but in 3.5 years, you're going to be great. And they don't tell you
Oh,
that. And so you don't know when it's, when it's going to be great again. You just kind of, I always say it's like when you're waiting for your kid to walk or talk or potty train, and you feel like, as a parent, like maybe you're screwing up because there's something you're not doing to help your kid achieve that milestone. And if they would just tell you, at 26 months your kid is going to be potty trained, then you would just relax about the
relax.
whole thing. But
Right.
they don't give you that book, and they don't do it for this either. But if prior to what happened, someone had said, "Oh, you're going to find your dream house in Maryland, and it's going to be a crack house that you're going to transform into this lovely mid-century modern historic home that has a view of the Potomac, and it's going to be fantastic and absolutely 180 degrees from the dream home that you built in the other place." And if you were going to tell me that, oh, you're going to open a stained glass store and glass gallery and, just all this crazy stuff, I would have said, you're absolutely insane. But,
Look
but
at all the gifts. Look at
you
all the
just, yeah. And well, you taught me that like, that was another thing, like very early on, was find the gifts, find the gifts. And I was very, intentional about that, about trying to find the gifts after you kind of brought that to my attention. I think that's another really important little different kind of nugget that you gave me.
Yes. I don't feel like it takes a lot. It's just having initially the awareness and then starting to work through it, make that change, and then just practicing a couple of things over and over and over for what resonates with you and what sticks with you. And for me, that is one of them, because when I'm in my shit, and let me tell you, with juggling the things that we juggle in our life, the shit happens pretty regularly. I think I was speaking to my office manager yesterday, and she was like, if there was one day that was completely perfect, I would be amazing. I'm like, well, let's just stop right there, because that's not ever going to happen. Right. So the point is, for me, it's now recognizing what are the gifts. And so we have that gratitude practice, right? Doing a daily gratitude practice or asking yourself what went well. These are some of the basic things that we can do to shift towards a more positive bias rather than always having that negativity bias.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons why I think that you have been able to transform so quickly was because you took some of these nuggets that really resonated with you and you applied them and practiced them and did them. And that was it. Like, that's the key to the success, is just making it a habit that's a daily ritual for you, where it's second nature.
It's just unlocking a door. And the other thing that you taught me was, I think so many, especially women, well, women in general, but women in medicine, we're just so terrible at prioritizing ourselves and our own needs. And you have said for months, do you have on your calendar the time for you? Did you do that first? Because that's the thing you're supposed to be doing first. And since then I've taken up watercoloring because, I find that to be very meditative, and I've taken up Zentangle, which I was kind of doing a little bit before, but, just kind of mindful doodling and, allowing myself, like, there's nothing wrong with my taking an hour to sit down and get lost in something like that. And I don't have to be doing something all the time, because there's always things that need to be done. Like, there's never not something that needs to be done.
100%, right? Exactly. I love that you've shared all of this. And I would love to ask you, like, everybody's anger shows up differently. Some people will have it and they have outwardly reactions and outbursts. Some people kind of bottle it up and just kind of introvertedly turn in and shut down. Other people don't even realize that they have it. And so, speaking to the audience, and some people maybe who say, I don't really need this, I don't have anger, or I don't have these issues, what would you say to them? What advice would you give them about maybe considering how their anger shows up and how they can start to add some tools to their tool belt to show up a little differently?
I think in my case, it was really preventing me from moving forward. And, whether it was more than anger, but it was a roadblock for me. And I couldn't move past that, at least not fully. And so it was preventing me from enjoying other things and from taking other steps and maybe from being brave. You pointed out to me early on too that, I felt like I had to have all of these contingency plans because I had lost my job. And you just pointed that out to me. I see you making all these plans because you're afraid to just believe that this thing that you have now is fine because this other thing that was great was kind of stripped away unexpectedly. And so taking the time to really think about, okay, why is this emotion here? Why is this the roadblock? What's at the core of this, or what's at the core of this behavior that I'm engaging in? And really being intentional about trying to figure that out, or going to somebody like you who can help you figure that out, which, I bring things to you all the time. Like, okay, here's this. And you're just like, as that wonderful third party who doesn't know all the details, or just like, just cut it out. I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself? Just no, this doesn't serve you at all. And, very good at pointing out those kinds of things and asking the right questions and, really making me be introspective about some of that. So I think just being able to have that third party to just kind of call you out on your bullshit is really important. And, helping you figure out what is at the root of what's keeping you from just kind of, living your best life and progressing just as a person.
Yeah. So good, my friend. So good. I think I might use that. You just need a third party to call you out on your bullshit. I love
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. That's the thing.
I love it. I'd love to be that third party. So, well, this has been amazing. I cannot thank you enough for sharing your story. And I would love to offer, if anybody wants to learn more about you and your story, tell them where they can find out more, reach you, whatever, all the things.
Well, if you want to hear the whole sordid story, you can go to YouTube and look up Infodemic Tennessee. It's a BBC documentary that was done about this whole sordid story. It's only about 27 minutes. I tell people you can usually watch it while you're on the potty. So you could do that. You can also Google me. There I actually got an invitation from the Tennessean at Mother's Day a couple years ago, and it said, we're going to invite you to Google your mom's name and just see what comes up, with all in the media. And so I didn't Google my mom's name because I knew there wouldn't be much in there, but I Googled mine and I had 378 hits. And it's like, man, nobody needs 378 hits of anything. So there's plenty out there if you want to know the backstory that I'm kind of no longer allowed to give the details of. And then if you just want to reach out to me personally, you can do that through my website, which is fiscusmd.com, or you can email me at mdfiscus@fiscusmd.com, and I would be more than happy to connect with you. And if you're in the Maryland area or in the DMV and you're a colleague, then let's meet up and talk too. That works.
Love it. I love it. Well, again, so thankful to have you. I would also just put a plug in there for her amazing stained glass shop her family owns up in Alexandria. And she's definitely helped make contributions to my client welcome boxes because I think it's gorgeous, fun, nice, beautiful stuff that they create. So check that out.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yes, fiscusglassworks.com online for the shameless plug.
Yes, for sure. All right, my dear. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I appreciate all of your contributions and openness and willing to share.
Thanks so much. So much fun. Thanks for everything you're doing.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of From Pissed Off to Poised. Remember, transformation is a journey, not a destination. So enjoy the ride. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review From Pissed Off to Poised on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback supports my mission to get this podcast out to help other women physicians and professionals like you on their path to creating a more peaceful life with more intention and more joy. I enjoy reading every message I get with your input and feedback on my journey, so keep them coming. And if you have a friend who might enjoy the listen, please share this episode and show with them. Lastly, if you want to learn more about my coaching programs and course offerings, check out my website at www.thoughtworkmd.com. Feel free to reach out to me to learn more about investing in yourself through one-to-one coaching so you can start living the life you've always wanted. This show is for general educational and entertainment purposes only. Life coaching is not a substitute for therapy or medical treatment.